Question number 1. Tell me about yourself. I'm a 42-year-old mother of 4 and a stepmother of 3. I have 1 grandchild and 1 on the way. I've been a CNA for 23 years and have worked in varying types of facilities. Question 2. Tell me about past work experience. I started my career working in long-term care facilities. I worked long-term care for 15 years. I entered into a medical assisting school to broaden my experience. Once finished with that, I took my first job in a hospital and vowed to myself that I would never work in a long-term care facility again because I like to use my experience. I worked for a very short time as a dialysis technician trainee, but found I was not very good at it. I currently work in a hospital on a surgical unit that cares for general surgery and orthopedic patients. Question 3. Describe a time when you worked on a team. On my busy surgical floor, there are many occasions where there is only 1 CNA on the floor. The nurses often rely on us to complete many tasks that are time sensitive. On this particular morning, I was working with 15 patients and was the only CNA on the unit. The nurses asked me what types of things that I needed help with to complete the time sensitive tasks. We worked together to be sure of what we needed to get done, the things that they could help me with, for example, obtaining patient X, Y, and Z's vital signs and blood sugars, as well as assisting those patients to the restroom when needed and answering the call lights. We all worked together to ensure that our patients were safe, properly cared for, and the clinical aspects of it all were completed accurately and on time. We have all discovered that working as a team is far better and much easier for all of us than trying to complete all of our tasks alone when we are short-handed. Question 4. Tell me about a time when you had too many things to do and had to prioritize your tasks. On a nightly basis, whether I'm the only CNA on the floor or not, there are times when I have to triage my tasks. Working with people, especially those who are ill or have had surgery, can be unpredictable. On this particular occasion, I had a patient who was impatient about waiting for help that they needed to get out of bed to use the restroom. The patient would jump out of bed after just a few seconds of the call light ringing, and that was very unsafe for them. I also had a patient who needed their blood pressure checked every 2 hours. On this night, it seemed as though every time I was in taking the blood pressure on the one patient, the other patient was jumping out of bed. I had to get it into my head that the priority was to keep the patient who was hopping out of bed safe. The blood pressure could be a few minutes late if it meant my patient was staying off the floor. I also realized that if I offered to take my patient to the bathroom before the blood pressure was due, it helped. The result for this scenario was that I was able to keep my patient from falling on the floor and also get the blood pressures mostly on time. Tell me about a time when you had to go above and beyond the call of duty. The situation is years and years back when I was working as a home care aide. I cared for one elderly client who was able to be out and about by himself but rarely ate more than a few crackers each day for meals at those times when I wasn't at his home. I was only there a few days a week, so I had to figure out what I could do to ensure that he would eat better when I wasn't there. He wasn't properly caring for himself nutritionally unless I was there to cook for him, and he would not allow Meals on Wheels. I decided that I would take 1 day a week when I was with him, take him to the grocery store, and I would help him shop for foods that he would like to eat. This was part of my job, but the part of this that was above and beyond was staying at his house past the time I was getting paid for to make sure that the food was cooked for him and packaged in containers that he could easily reheat. His family was appreciative of this, and what resulted was that the elderly gentleman was able to stay in his home for 2 years and not be malnourished. Tell me about a time when you worked well under pressure. While working in a long-term care facility, I had a patient who was diabetic. Her blood sugar could drop on a dime. I checked her blood sugar because looking at her I had a feeling it was low. It was low and well below the normal limits. I knew that we needed to get sugar into her. It was quite possible she didn't get help for the low blood sugar, she could wind up in the hospital, or even worse, she could die. I ran to the kitchen and got her juice, and also let the nurse know how very low she was. I got back to the patient and slowly gave her the juice as the nurse gave her an injection to help the blood sugar go up. At some time, the resident's blood sugar got up to normal limits and she was safe. I learned that sometimes my gut instincts are correct. Give me an example when you showed initiative. After I met my husband, we started living together. He was a part-time dad who worked full-time and lived in what I would call a bachelor pad. There was no organization in the house, laundry everywhere, kitchen cabinets a mess, and not organized at all. I decided that after I asked him if it was okay, that I was going to organize the house for him. The house has 8 rooms. After gaining his permission and hearing the giggles that ensued from him for me wanting to start this daunting task, I very methodically went through the house, one room at a time. I started in the kitchen and worked my way through the entire house. It took me an awful long time, several weeks actually, to get everything organized. I managed it and learned that organization takes a really long time. My husband was proud, grateful, and pleased with all the work I had done. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about you? I am an extremely hard worker, and I love to work as part of a team. I treat my patients as extensions of my family and with the utmost respect. I enjoy working with surgical patients of all kinds, and love to broaden my horizons.